Hello, welcome back to Kim Reads. So we continue with Son of a Witch 3. It was a hard time. It had been a hard time in Oz for some time. For all the time, said world-weary students. The superior Maunt, too tired for colloquy, removed herself to her chambers and settled in her rocker. Amid trappings from more severe what her younger colleagues could tolerate, she could rock a little and thought as coherently as she could. It was a habit of hers to forestall the onset of vagueness that she could review a strand of history from time to time. The witch, so-called, had lived in a cloistered monastery a decade and a half ago. One couldn't forget that, to the superior Mount's knowledge, that no one else in Oz had ever been born with skin as green as the new lilac leaves. But Elphaba had kept herself to herself, accepting without complaint such assignments that were meted out. She lived there for what? 5, 6, 7 years, and then Superior Mount had hired Oatise Manglehand to escort the close-lipped novice back into the civilian world. The small boy had tagged along, neither warmly included nor shooed away. What had his name been, and where he had come from? An urchin left by one of the gypsy bands that scavenged for petty mushroom along the roots of the oak hair trees. The Superior Mount couldn't remember the lad's provenance. Someone younger would know. Elphaba had gone, off to Kiamiko, there just doing her own private penance. The Superior Mount occasionally listened to testimonies of sin confessed by her sisters, but during her tenure as a Mount, Elphaba had never petitioned for an audience. Of this, the Superior Mount was quite sure, though the nature of Elphaba's sins had been of great interest to the under-entertained sorority. Elphaba had never obliged. Bit by bit, news filtered out that even to an outpost like this, the Mounts learned of the slow evolution of Elphaba into a witch by dint of her rash behavior or unexpected family ties. She'd been sister to Nessarose, the wicked witch of the East, as some said. For the love of the unnamed god, who could have expected that? The Superior Mount sighed, chiding herself for the pleasure she took to remember her contempt for those days. How she'd leapt up from her prayers and clapped her hands to hear that long ago the Wizard of Oz had drawn to a close at last, and the merciless old bastard disappeared in the clouds in a hot air balloon, advertising some secure commercial tonic. And then the surprise ascendancy to the palace throne of Lady Chuffrey, nee Galinda Arduena of the Uplands, a sort of prime minister pro term until things could be sorted out. She'd come out of nowhere, politically speaking, money to burn, and a certain sort of style, but who would have guessed the vacuum left by the wizard's departure would suck in a society wife with a penchant for glitter gowns. Not a terrible choice, the Superior Mount began talking aloud, keeping her thoughts straight. And I say this without needing to reflect nicely on her own St. Galinda, or whom Lady Chuffrey was probably named, or renamed herself. Galinda, a ruler name. Glinda, the more sophisticated, the saint's name, clever move. No, Glinda, as she became known popularly, a single name, like a house pet, like a lap dog. Glinda managed to run an open court for a while. It was much had gone wrong, at least in the prior atmosphere. Wizardic secrecy was corrected. There was an inclination initiative, very thoughtful. Some school for mill worker girls of all things. Good programs, expected to run though. Seemed generous and intelligent from the perspective of a cloistered spinster. Well, what kind of perspective was that? And Glinda stepped inside. Ever the dilettante, she'd grown bored with governing. People soon had taken up collecting miniature furniture with a vengeance. Well, to be fair, maybe she pushed out for a while. A puppet government replaced her. a right dolt, calling himself a scarecrow. Rumors had flown that he was no real scarecrow, that he wasn't even the scarecrow associated with the visitor Dorothy. He was just some out-of-work bum dressed up to fool the masses. Being paid every week at the back door probably, but by whom? Glinda's people? Her thwarters? The banker barons of industrial Gillikin? Who knew? In due course he was booted out by latest nuisance. Next hall man seeking with glory, the sacred emperor. The long years since Elphaba had driven her to wild roam across the sky and climb. On the surface, certain atrocities had ceased, and that was good. Other atrocities had placed them. Certain diseases subsided. Others had taken grip. Now something was agitating the Scarecrow and the Unimamna in the west, something so fierce that agents from one or both of the tribes were striking out at neutral parties. Like the junior Maunts went out on mission by the toadies helming the motor chapel in the Emerald City. Those psychopathic baddies, they clucked themselves to death if their emperor had asked for it. Their missionaries, who innocent young things, had stopped here at the cloister of St. Glinda for nourishment and cheer. Were their faces now, wondering the superior Maunt. Hoped she had never seen it again, neither in her wet dreams nor in parcels on the delivery of post. She was drifting off to sleep in her rocker. She arose, groaning at the pain of her joints, and tried to pull her shutters tight. One of them stuck and had to say what it was. She meant to have it this afternoon, but with the arrival of the caravan, she'd forgotten. She visited the toilet reserved for her private use and dressed in her rough gown for the night. When she settled herself to her horse-air mattress, she hoped she would drift off quickly. It had been a taxing day. The Jackal moon looked in her window at her. The superior Mount turned her head so as not to meet its eye, a folk custom with which she had been raised 7-8 decades earlier and never shaken. Her mind went very briefly to those days of the Pertha hills of Gillikin, days sharper and more powerful in memory of what could apprehend of her current life. The taste of the pearl fruit leaves, the water on her father's wagon roof when the rains came. The rains came so much more often in her youth. The snow smelled of things. Everything smelled. Wonderfully or not, it was all wonderful that they smelled like her nose hardly worked at all. She said a prayer or two. Liir, that was his name, Liir. She prayed to remember it when the time came for her to wake up. 4. The next morning, before Oatise Manglehand gathered her brand together for the final push to the Emerald City, she took Nub to the small plain parlor. There she met with the superior Maunt, sister doctor, and sister apothecary. When the superior Mount had sat down, the others sat. Since she abstained from morning tea, the others abstained. If we are going to help this boy, we must share what we know, began the superior Maunt. I picked up all sorts of hearsay. A report from Sister Doctor, if you please. Sister Doctor, a beefy woman with questionable credentials, but proved expertise in diagnosis, wasn't sanguine about the prospects for the invalid. He appears to have suffered a little from exposure, so he will have been left dead for only a short leap before you brought him in. Oatise didn't speak to this. She didn't want to begin by contradicting a professional woman, even if she thought Sister Doctor had to be wrong. Sister Doctor pressed on. He is a shattered man, quite literally. Isn't mine to guess how he came to be so wounded, but his state is like nothing I've ever seen. One of his legs is broken in multiple places, both wrists are sprained. One of his shoulder blades is cracked. Many of his ribs, 4 of his fingers, 3 of his bones in his left foot. Not a single bone punctured his skin, however, and apparently no blood loss. Not unless the blood ran off in a rain squall, thought Oatise, but kept still. Sister Doctor rubbed the back of her neck and grimaced. I spent so much time studying bones I I could only do a cursory exam of his organs. He is breathing shallowly and with difficulty. The phlegm that runs from his nose to is both yellow and bloody. This suggests respiratory troubles. Sister Apothecary has her own notions about this. To start with questions under the discharge began Sister Apothecary somewhat over-enthusiastically, but Sister Doctor spoke over her. Sister Apothecary can speak presently. I have no opinion about her conjectures. The heart, said the superior Mount, overriding the tired old conflict. Working, Sister Doctor grunted as if difficulty had her own answer. The guts. The word would be wobbly. I suspect an imploded spleen or the like, and septic poisoning. There's a funny color in the extremities and on certain contusions I don't care for at all. What color is that? Said the superior Mount. Sister Doctor pursed her lips. Well, I'm a bit overtired. We worked all night, without resting, but see, there's a green tinge on the bruises, ringed and plummy yellowy margin. Suggested of internal bleeding, you think? Or a disease? Or maybe something else? He may be comatose, or he may be brain dead. I have no way of knowing. Though his heart is good, his color I say not, so circulation may be failing. The lungs have been compromised severely, whether by a pre-existing condition or some aspect of his misadventures. I cannot venture an opinion at this time. To conclude, Sister Mount rolled her hand in the air. Death by nightfall, maybe tomorrow morning, said Sister Doctor. We could pray for a miracle, said Nub. Oatise snorted. Sister Apothecary will handle the treatment, said Sister Doctor, making it sound as though she thought prayer would be a wiser course. You could pray for a miracle, said Sister Apothecary to Nub, but I have work to do. Sister Apothecary, said Superior Mount, I have something to add. Sister Apothecary pushed her spectacle down her nose and then removed them, huffed upon them, and wiped them clean off the hem of her apron. She was a munchkin and exhibited the munchkin farm-wise patch of her high dream. Not a bad attribute for a person in her profession. It's all puzzling, she agreed. We have made him as comfortable as we could, and as the mercy of our mission requires, with tape we have bound by his limbs to splints and shins. Should he live, he may regain some degree of motor function. What does that mean? Asked Oatise. Speak clearly to the ignorant me. He may be able to sit up and to use his hands if his nerves are shot to hell. He may be able to walk in a fashion that is unlikely, but as I say, we aim for the stars, which is more troubling in the discharge from the membranes. The nose, most obviously, but the other orifices as well. Ears, eyes, anus, penis. You've had a chance to do some initial work in the laboratory, prompted Superior Mount. Indeed, just to start, I found nothing definitive. Nothing as I'd seen before, either in my station here at the Monterey or in my prior position at matron's assistant. There were respite of incurables in the Emerald City. Sister Doctor rolled her eyes. Sister Apothecary never lost an opportunity to publish her credential. Can you supply us with a hypothesis? Asked the Superior Mount. It would be rash to do so. Even sitting, Sister Apothecary was shorter than her peers, so her sideways glance at her disapproving colleague required her to poke her chin up, which perhaps gave her more combative expression than intended. Whoever he is, I do wonder if this is lattice from high altitudes. The mucus seepage may be due to the systematic collapse of arterial function due to a sudden change in air pressure. I haven't seen such a system before, but the fallows are very low ground indeed compared to the high peaks of the Great Kells. The way Sister Doctor murmured, made it plain to all what she thought of her calling. She straightened her spine as if to say, hurry up. Her longer spine gave her the height of her colleague, which she liked to use to her advantage. Superior Maunt intervened. Do you agree with Sister Doctor that death is imminent? Sister Apothecary sniffed. The two didn't like to agree on anything, but she couldn't help it. She nodded her head. There may be much to learn, she said. The longer he hangs on, the more chance he'll have to study the nature. You will have studied nothing in his nature that isn't directly related to the easing of his affliction, said the Mother Superior Maunt mildly. But Mother Maunt, it is in my charge as an apothecary. The syndrome he dies from may afflict others in time, and this is an opportunity to learn, to turn our noses up to discount revelation. I have delivered my opinion on the matter, and I expect to be observed. Now to you both. Is there anything we do for him that we are not doing? Notify the next of kin, said Sister Doctor. The Superior Maunt nodded and rubbed her eyes. She lifted a saucer tea to her lips now, and without hesitation, the others did the same. I propose we get one of the sisters to play music for him then, she concluded. If our only contributor is to ease his death, let's do what we can. Preferably not the sister who's torturing the harp since we arrived yesterday, muttered Oatise Manglehand. Have you had anything to add, Oatise? Said a Superior Maunt. I mean, aside from your critique of musical performance? Only this, said the caravan guide. I won't bother to apologize for contradicting them, she said. Sister Doctor proposes the boy would have been set upon by brigands and left only to die shortly before we found him. But the train out there, my friends, is as flat as a rolled out tart crust. I don't follow, said Superior Maunt. The body had been lying there for longer than Sister Doctor suggests. I would have seen the marauders in retreat. There was no place for them to hide. I see no tree cover. You know how bright night was? I could see for miles. Puzzling indeed. Do you use magic in your menstruation? Oatise Manglehand, said Superior Maunt tiredly. We are a sorority of Unionist monks. Such a question. She closed her eyes and rubbed her forehead with old bowed fingers. Over a venerable figure, Sister Doctor and Sister Apothecary both nodded silently to Oatise. Yes, we do. What little we're capable of, what we do. The Superior Maunt continued. Before resting for the night, I recalled his name. The boy was named Liir. He left the Monterey with Sister St. Elphaba. Well, Elphaba, I suppose. She never professed her vows. Do you remember the boy at all, Sister Doctor? I had just arrived about the time Elphaba was setting out, said Sister Doctor. I remember Elphaba Throp a little. I didn't care for her. Her moods and silences seemed hostile rather than holy. Of the many urchins who are abandoned around here, I remember even less. Children don't interest me unless they are gravely ill. Was he gravely ill? He is now, said the Superior Maunt, and somewhere in his mind he's still able to dream. He's a child in there, I presume. Very sentimental indeed, said Mother Maunt, said Sister Doctor. I do remember him, now that you give me his name, said Oatise Manglehand. Well, of course, in the better years, I make 3 or 4 separate runs, and we're talking 12, 15, 18 years ago. I have packed more than a few children into the heaps of worldly goods and buried some by the side of the tractor well, but he was a quiet lad, sure of himself. He shadowed Elphaba as if she were his mother. Was she his mother? Oh, dubious, very dubious, said Sister Doctor. There is a green tone to his bruises, Sister Apothecary reminded him. I blush when I'm embarrassed, Sister Apothecary. This does not relate me to radish, said the Superior Mount. Well, we have to ask around. Most of the older sisters who have remembered Elphaba are dead now, and the others are in their second childhood. But Sister Cook, if she hasn't been guzzling the cooking sherry, or perhaps if she has, she will know something. She always helps food to the children loitering in the kitchen yard, and she remembers where the boy came from. Meanwhile, and the good woman rose to signal the meeting was done, we will do our best with Liir, whether he be the witch's spawn or the reject of a gypsy mother. Hardly matters on one's deathbed from who one has been born, does it? The world is in the womb now, and the afterlife waits for those who are born into it. She turned roomy eyes to Oatise Manglehand. The wagoner could see the Superior Mount was waiting hopefully for her own deliverance as the world, and delivered the next. Oatise accepted the woman's cool hands on her forehead, knowing the gesture was indeed as a blessing, a forgiveness, perhaps farewell. The wind is high, said Manglehand. If we leave now and find the water low enough at the near ford, we'll make the far bank of Gilligan by nightfall. The unnamed god speeds your progress, muttered the Superior Mount. Her eyes had shunned inward, as if already to the next problem. Indeed, she was. Before Oatise had finished tying the strings of her boots, she heard the Superior Mount say to her colleagues, Now you must help me on the stair, ladies, for I will go visit our invalid. She's a tough old bird, muttered Oatise to Nub. Let's get out of here, said Nub. Don't want to stay under any roofs that house a son of a witch, even if it's holy roofs. And that's the end of